I work as a waitress in a restaurant, and I can safely say that the term, "the customer is always right," is definitely wrong. The way some customers act is ridiculous. It's like they're from a different planet at times. I love my job, but I dislike these awkward customers. Looking back on it, I realize that I have plenty of bizarre and funny stories, so I'm going to share the funniest ones with you. One time, this guy insisted he needed lime juice for his meal. As we're an Italian restaurant, we don't have any on hand, but I knew that the bar should have some. I politely told him that the kitchen didn't have any, but the bar uses them with the bottles of Peroni, so I might be able to get him some from there. He looked up at me and asked, "Are you going to charge me for that?" I smiled and replied, "I think I can get a garnish for you for free." When I came back with the lime, he didn't thank me. Instead, he gave me a confused look. "Where's my Peroni?" he demanded. "Sorry, sir? You said you wanted the lime. Did you want to order a bottle of Peroni as well?" "Yes, I want one. You said you wouldn't charge me." As soon as I told him I couldn't give him a free drink, he was furious and demanded that I get my manager. I went and got my boss and filled him in on what had happened. This man started shouting at him and insisted that I'd promised him a free bottle of Peroni with his slice of lime, and he wanted it right now. My boss managed to defuse the situation, but the man insisted that he'd never be coming back. He also didn't leave a tip, which I guess wasn't surprising. Another time, a group of customers walked in and ordered drinks. One member of the group asked for water, ice, and sugar. I thought this was odd, but I was used to customers asking for strange things, so I brought him what he asked for. He then took slices of orange out of his backpack and made all the things up himself like a bartender. Then he had a free orange juice. Another time, it was pretty late after closing, and I was waiting for the last table to finish eating so I could clean up. In the meantime, I was doing some other closing work on the other side of the restaurant and glancing occasionally over my shoulder to see if they needed something. The woman had almost finished her spag bowl when I saw her take something out of her pocket and drop it onto her plate. The woman stormed over to me and held out the plate. She pointed at something that was in the sauce and demanded to see my boss, so I went and got him. This woman actually delved into the spag bowl sauce and pulled out a dead small cockroach, and she then began to dangle it in front of us. I shrieked out and took a step back. She threatened to report us to environmental health, refused to pay, and then demanded a free meal voucher. If she really had found a cockroach in her meal, why would she want a free voucher to come back again? I told my boss that I saw her put it in her meal, so he asked her to wait while he checked the camera. She went completely bonkers and spat out racial slurs, profanities, and awful threats at us. My boss remained calm and politely asked them to pay and then leave. They kept refusing to pay. It was only when my boss said he'd called the police that her husband reluctantly paid for the meal. The whole thing was ridiculous. Who would carry a dead cockroach around with them just to get free food? Yuck! My most memorable customer was a woman in her 30s. She was polite at first and told me that she would just order a drink for now, as the friend she was meeting was running late. I went and got her a glass of wine, and then I went to a nearby table to take their orders. I turned and looked over at her. She smiled at me. Then she picked up her wine and purposely poured it over her lap. She screamed out and jumped up to her feet. Both me and another waitress rushed over to her. She pointed over at me. It was her! She poured my wine all over me! "I'm sorry, madam, but I wasn't even near you," I replied in the calmest tone I could manage. "Are you calling me a liar?" she screamed out. "This is an outrage! My designer dress is ruined!" Everyone in the restaurant was staring over at us. It was really embarrassing. Also, there was no way her dress was designer, as my sister owned the same dress and it cost her $20. My boss came over and tried to calm the woman down. I passed her some napkins to dry herself with, and my boss gave her a large wine on the house. He also said that he wouldn't charge her for the first one, and her bill would be discounted 30% in total as an apology. Suddenly, the woman went from angry to polite. She thanked my boss, then she sat back down and looked at the menu. 10 minutes later, her friend showed up, and this woman ordered a 3-course meal and acted as if nothing had happened. She even left me a tip. If I ever gain access to a time machine, the first thing I will do is go back, find the person who coined "the customer is always right" saying, and bring them back to watch this video. Then ask them if they want to correct their words. They certainly aren't always right. They just think that they are. My job can be challenging at times, but I enjoy being a waitress. Luckily for me, the majority of my customers are lovely. I hope my funny stories made you laugh. They didn't feel funny at the time, but now when I look back at them, I smile. After all, if you don't laugh, you'll cry, and no one wants to do that.